Good morning, this is John Cacavaro along with Georgiana, and we are going to record an experimental meeting. The point of the meeting is to explain from a business point of view all the way through to a detailed design what a service should do. We're going to try to limit the meeting to about 15 minutes or so, but we'll go over if we have to. And again, this is an experimentation, so those of you who are watching, we will expect feedback as to how important and how useful this recording is. With that, I'm going to make Georgiana the presentation, the presenter, and expect us to trip over ourselves quite a bit as we discover the right level of information to disseminate. So this meeting is going to be about the configuration access service. And if Georgiana scrolls up, you will see that there are several operations. And it will be useful for the developer of this service to understand from a business point of view what these operations are supposed to do. I think we should start with explaining what configuration is. And if Georgiana goes to the screenshots. So let's start all the way up at the top. The what is it called? The dashboard, the main dashboard where you choose your features.
Yeah, the features.
Because that's where the configuration begins, correct, Georgiana? Okay.
Yes.
So as you can see here, there are this would be the compliance homepage, so to speak. And there'd be a number of features. Now, Georgiana, is it true that a user can choose which features to show on their homepage?
No, these features will be assigned on a different tab, but here the user will see the list of features he or she has access to, and the user can change the order of the features in the screen.
And that's what we're going to be configuring, is the order of features, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Georgiana, let's go to your configuration access service and explain now how the data is propagated up from the database and what tables we're using to do this.
So we are preserving the user link preferences. So a feature has a link name in the database. So so based on the permissions that have been assigned to user, we get the list of links from this table, and that list of links has a position by default. When user changes the position of an item in the screen, it will the new position will be saved in the user link preference table.
Okay, so hold on for a minute. So it's possible that a new user comes in, they don't have any user link preferences, so we are going to give them some default, right? And that default is the link. However, if they've chosen to save preferences, then we will be saving rows in the user link preference, and when we return the data, we will mash up this data somehow to show that the user has chosen these particular links in this particular order. So in order to do this now, the operation that is involved is what? Get link list?
So we have get link list in order to display this.
Okay, scroll up and let's see the service, please. So get link list calls the get link request, and it has a user ID and take default. What does take default mean?
So the user has a optional amount of time to reset the order to default order. So in this case, we discard any user preference and return the default order.
Okay,
so
now
we say,
if you click on that and go to the property editor and choose comments, since take default is not necessarily it doesn't really speak to me about what I need to do as the developer, Georgiana will write a sentence explaining what to do when take default is set to true.
that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it does, but I think the name take default should be changed to reset to default. Or just reset defaults. Reset defaults.
Okay.
Reset defaults. S. Okay. Click OK, and then change the name of the change the property there. Reset defaults. Good. Now, what is the persist user link preference request?
So the persist user preference, I think I messed up that. Take default means that you ignore the user preference and take the default list.
Yeah.
Here on persist, we can just discard these.
I agree. So just take your comments before you delete that. Copy that sentence. Go to the property editor. Copy that. Delete that. Okay, so I still don't know what take defaults now is. What does take defaults do? Great. That makes much more sense now. Reset to defaults. The name of that property should be reset. Yep. And that should be reset defaults. Okay. Good. Let's go on to the next one. So that's configuration consistent with feature. Let's go on to the next business use case.
So the next business use case, the configuration of the filters and the columns. The user wants to see on each screen. So let's suppose we have a list of country events and we want to choose our custom columns to show in the grid. Okay, let me find that.
What was wrong with that screen? Okay, there's columns.
Okay.
Oh,
so here the user has the option to choose the columns to be displayed in this grid. So any change in this And the list of columns that are shown by default will be saved as a user field preference. And the same for filters.
Okay, let's not talk about filters first. Let's go back to the model.
Configuration access. So we first can choose to take the field list to display there. Now when the pop-ups.
Okay, hold on now. Stop. What does get field list do?
It will return the list of fields for a specific usage, right?
How does that coincide with columns, though? Is columns and fields the same thing?
So if the field is defined as having a column usage, can act as a column, it will have assigned that field usage type.
Okay, stop. So in order to understand that, the user of this video needs to understand the concept of a field usage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the concept of a field. So let's just talk about what a field is first. A field is, you can think of a field as a reference to some piece of data. So for example, you can see on the screen country event. Country event would be a field. Country, compliance group. These would all be fields. A field usage dictates how that field is used. So, Georgiana, would it be true that we could say that a field is called country event and that the field usage, there would be a field usage would be the country event list page?
Yes.
Okay, so then we can determine what fields what candidate fields would be here based on the field and the field usage. Now that we know what the candidates are, we need to inform the caller, which the caller, I believe you'd have to look at the call chain, but it's probably some manager or some engine. Definitely some manager or some engine. I just don't know which one. We would be passing, the access service would be passing back the data that is only specific to what the configuration dictates. So we're sitting on the configuration access service, so we need to return the configuration, that is the columns that are included on this page. Note that I'm not saying the data on this page. Not Australia, direct tax, annual, quarterly, all of that. That would be the data. Here we just want to return what columns that the user has chosen to be on the country event list page. Now we can go back to the configuration access. And Georgiana, the operation involved would be get field list, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And the caller of this service would pass in a get field list request, which should include the field usage type. And the field usage type in our example would be, Georgiana, what? The client event list or something like that?
Event list columns, yes.
So event list columns, and it would have some type of ID, and then a user ID, and whether or not we take the defaults. What the operation has to do, scroll down, Georgiana, to our entities. Let's look at our entities. What the operation has to do is, go ahead and explain it, Georgiana.
So the user will have to return all the fields for that field usage type. So the relationship between the relationship that establishes what are the fields for a given field usage type ID are saved in the field attribute table. So it will get a list of fields, and from that you can find the fields, right? These are all the fields for that usage. The next step is to go
Okay, hold on.
and
Let's
check.
go back and let's explain that. So, does the implementer look for what first? Fields and then gets the many for the field user type? What is the implementer supposed to do?
No, it will look first in the field attribute table and get all the fields for that field usage type.
Got it. Okay, so let's say that the client event list screen is field usage type 23. So we'll look for all fields, um, field attributes for 23, right? And then that
Yes.
and then that will give us our fields. Now we have our fields, and what is the next thing we need to do?
So we will always return all the fields for that field usage, right? But we will have to return also the information um, regarding user preference, right?
Sure.
So if the user goes here in the UI and checks compliance group and entity type and unchecks recurrence and fiscal year, the next time the user will come here wants to see his selections. So we have the we have we preserve user selections in user field preference table, right?
Yep.
So after we find the list of fields for that field usage type, we go to user field preference table and get the list of fields that are selected by the user and also the fields positions.
Okay, and then go back up to the top and let's see what our response object looks like. So our response object, where's the response object? Get field lists. So that returns the specific field list for that page for that user. And that has been 15 minutes. Scroll up, please. So we have just accomplished get field list and get link list
And persist user link preference.
and persist user link preference. Okay, we're going to stop there, and a video that will be done tomorrow, we will do the rest of the operations. Thank you.